All right, we got 5:30, so go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we could do roll call, please.
Chairman York.
Here.
Vice Chairman Salazar Garza.
Here.
Commissioner Miller is absent. Commissioner Mandel.
Here.
Commissioner Munoz.
Here.
Commissioner Hedrick.
Here.
Commissioner Budd.
Here.
Commissioner Cantu.
Here.
Commissioner Teichelman.
Here.
We have a quorum to conduct the meeting.
Awesome, and if you would, please read the rules for public comment.
Citizens will be allowed to attend and make public comments in person for the City Planning Commission meetings. The public is invited to speak on any agenda item and any other items that pertain to the Planning Commission. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. If you choose to speak during this period, you will not be allowed to speak again when the specified item is being considered in order of agenda.
All right, with that, we'll open up the general public comment. If anybody would like to come up and make public comment. Seeing none, we will close that and move on to approval of absences for Commissioners Miller and Munoz.
I move that we approve the absences of Commissioner Miller and Munoz from the previous meeting.
I'll second. Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to the approval of minutes for the June 25th meeting.
Commissioner Mandel, I move that we approve the minutes from June 25th, 2025.
I second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to consent public hearing, items A, B, and C.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Andrew Demas with Development Services, reading in tonight's consent agenda. Beginning under letter A for plats. Item number 2, final plat for Corpus Christi Holly Edition. Item number 3, a replat for Lamar Park Subdivision. And item number 4, preliminary plat, M&R Home Solutions LLC subdivision. These 3 plats have been reviewed by staff and have been determined to meet the requirements of the Technical Review Committee, the UDC, and Texas Local Government Code. They are recommended for approval. Under letter B, time extension, item number 5, a request for Glen Oak Park Unit 2. And item number 6, Azali Oceanside Estates, which is a replat. As these are both the first extension request, so staff recommends approval. And then under letter C for zoning, item number 7, this is zoning case ZN 8634, Saratoga 400 Partners LLC, which is in District 3. This is a request from the RS 4.5 Single Family 4.5 District to the RS 4.5 PUD Single Family District with a planned unit development overlay. Staff recommends approval. If there are any questions for tonight's consent agenda, I'd be happy to address them.
All right. Do commissioners have any questions on items, was it 2 through 7?
I have a question on item number 7. So this is going for a PUD zoning. Do we have any details as far as a plat or any more information as far as what's happening? And really what was presented, I just see kind of a squared off area.
Right, so on, that is slide number, I believe it's 6, shows the approved site plan. Might need to bring it up for the audience. If the AV could put it up, please. But what it shows is a rough layout of the proposed plan unit development. The 2 deviations that are being requested is to go from 4,500 square foot lots, which is what the 4.5 district allows by right, to 4,000 square foot lots, and from 45 feet of width to 40 feet in width. So those are the 2 deviations that are being requested when it comes to this PUD.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Normally when we are granting a PUD zoning exemption, normally to do a PUD, there's generally concessions that developers make, whether it be extra walking trails, parks, something to justify giving a special zoning. I know in the past when we've approved zoning for the island and other areas, we usually have extras. Is there anything included in this, or is this just basically just trying to get more lots?
Well, that's to put it politely, yes, it's erring more on the side of increasing density versus adding what we as staff look for as amenities. So when it comes to, let's say, island PUDs that you'll see, you may have a shared dock, shared courtyards, barbecues, gazebos, some type of outdoor area, pedestrian amenities, and sometimes marina uses. In fact, it's required in the UDC to note in section 3.5, making a case as part of the review criteria for a PUD. The review criteria is our guideline internally, and essentially what we have to do is balance how many of the tenets do you meet of this review criteria. While some of them very clearly say, yes, you do need to provide amenities or somehow prove that your design is unique and therefore warrants a PUD. But at the same time, can you demonstrate, are you in harmony or character with the surrounding neighborhood? So it's essentially 6 things that we have to look at. In some cases, you may only check 4 of the 6, and then we as staff have to make a call. Are you justified enough for us to support as a staff, yes to a PUD, versus no, you're missing one of the items and therefore we should throw the whole thing out and say denial. That's why we bring a full staff report to the Planning Commission and try to, you kind of give us guidance of, are we evaluating them in a way that, yes, we are saying you do check more boxes than not, and therefore a PUD is approved. If not,
Andrew, isn't this, with the new state law passing, that now we can go down to 3,000, I think, square feet? I know we don't have that in our UDC yet, but it's coming soon. Is that part of why that the city's not looking at so closely at because basically they should be able to do this without a PUD in the next few months, right?
By September 1st, that bill will become, well, it's been signed into law, and that bill will go live for an action September 1st. So we have a time frame now between now and then to figure out how are we going to integrate into the UDC. The predominant theory right now is both create a district and a use. So either a lot of properties will have to be down zoned to what will be called RS3, or we will create a set of conditions, and if you're in these other districts, you can essentially create an RS3 area. That's kind of cart before the horse. So we're in this limbo of creating the language, making sure we're in line with state law, and then getting it adopted. PUDs are a little more different because it's asking to deviate from the zoning, from our ordinance as it's written, and to then say, yes, I can make enough of a case to justify me deviating because I'm providing X, Y, and Z. So that's why I bring up the island, because it's the most typical PUD that we see. I'm going to provide more condos. It's because I'm in a FEMA zone, so I have to build an elevated area. So I have some factors working against me. So I'm asking the city, can you kind of work with me on maybe narrowing a driveway, or I'm going to add in amenities. So can you work with me on parking requirements? That's kind of the give and take when it comes to PUDs.
What was the justification for this one, for the reason given?
So what we listed in our staff report was that it was providing additional housing and density in an area where kind of the rubber meets the road is when we get to the plat stage. So what this PUD will do is establish you can have smaller lots that are narrower in width. When we get to the full plat, that's when we have to discuss things like roadway width, sidewalks, your drainage, utility serviceability, all those things. So in this case, the zoning has a very small impact, but setting a standard by a PUD. So it's kind of a foot in two worlds right now.
Right, because they're not asking for any right-of-way changes, street, anything other than square footage, minimum square foot and minimum lot width, right?
Correct. And
Okay.
the only avenue available is a PUD, since we do not currently have a district smaller than 4.5. That's the rub. That's the kind of the hard part the Planning Commission will have to make is there enough justification to say yes to the PUD, even though it's just adding density in all actuality?
I have a question. Okay, so you said that being it's a PUD, it's smaller. So usually you compensate something in a PUD development. What kind of conditions is it that they're trying to, I think like Justin was speaking on, what kind of conditions are we going to be placing, or is there anything planned to be placed for this residence? Because a PUD's already small, which means that everything is impact.
Sure.
And the whole purpose of us developing homes is for the safety of the people. So, I mean, from the sidewalks to crossways, is there anything of that that's going to be planned for this neighborhood?
Yeah, they're not proposing to change any of that, so all that would still be the same.
Okay, well then, I was talked to about something called Vision Zero. Okay, I've never had heard of it, and I know that it was adopted here for the city of Corpus Christi, I believe in 2022. So can you give me a little bit of what that Vision Zero is all about?
Sure.
What it is that because it's not only for residential, it's for commercial properties too.
Exactly.
Could you explain that, please?
Absolutely. So Vision Zero, we adopted as a city in 2020. It's a nationwide initiative. What Vision Zero stands for is zero deaths, meaning you have safe pedestrian crossways, you have separated bike lanes, you have wider sidewalks, you have means of creating a safe environment for all modes of transportation. So it's not so much heavy on cars. You have things like rapid transit lanes, all types of ways of moving people. The goal is to do it in the safest means possible to create a zero death scenario. So when the city adopted Vision Zero, it said that as we review plans and as we review plots and zoning cases, we would use that as a tool out of our toolbox, just like the rest of the comprehensive plan of, are you checking those boxes and saying, I am creating as a developer a safe environment? Where that comes into play many times is especially when we talk about properties that are developing near schools, or they're developing near large hubs like the mall, or areas where folks may be moving by means other than just by a motor vehicle, by single vehicle trips. So in fact, just the other council meeting came up about half streets, and I'm sure as this planning commission has talked about half streets, Vision Zero is a big part of that, because as you narrow a roadway, while narrow lanes are a good thing, that means you'll slow traffic down. When you have roadside ditches, you have nowhere for children to walk, especially when it's near a school or potentially an area where a school may be built. That is where Vision Zero comes into play. Again, we as planners have to find the balance of, yes, this developer, this plan is providing a safe environment, which is why you'll see us many times argue against sidewalk waivers, or you'll see us argue against other construction waivers, because sidewalks on both sides simply just need to be there for persons of all ages to move. And that's where Vision Zero comes into play. So we adopted it as a city policy. We have enacted it during rezoning reviews. In this case, there's not enough data to say 100% whether or not sidewalks will be on both sides. It wasn't on the PUD application, nor was a deviation asked for. So it's not something to say that this particular PUD is not following a Vision Zero principle. It's saying we don't have enough data to make that call yet. But that's where the plat comes in, and those right-of-way designations for us to say, yes, the sidewalk is now officially on both sides.
In other words, if they want to do any deviation, they'd have to ask again.
Right.
If they wanted to change anything. So right now, they still have to comply with all the normal
I just don't
things.
know all the requirements at Vision Zero. I don't know the list of the items.
It's a long policy, so it breaks up into three basic categories. The first is a safe systems approach. How you design the network of moving people has to be safe. Two, it has to be data-driven, meaning we are using data from schools and things that move large amounts of people, churches, shopping centers, all of those.
PUDs, this includes PUDs as well.
Well, it includes things that generate large amounts of data. One of the biggest things that moves people are schools of all levels. Those are going to have people walking back and forth from their residences to the institution. And the third is how policies are enacted between departments, meaning it's not just a call we as planners are making development services. It's not just a call traffic engineering is making, or at the end of the day, how engineering services is reviewing a cross-section. All of our departments combined have to work together to ensure that policies are being followed at every step. Those
So
are
this
the
is something you'll be following up with as it
correct.
continues to.
It's right now, it's a policy versus a code. Now, as the UDC is amended, we could say all PUDs must meet Vision Zero, and that's a code requirement versus we use it currently to evaluate a zoning request and then make recommendations.
You're saying it's more of a guideline right now?
Right, so if
Not a
we were to
requirement yet.
take section 3.5.4 and add number 7, it says must meet all Vision Zero principles, that is how you would codify it. Now,
It just gets concerning because now eventually I know we're going to have to narrow down the lots as well to 3,000 square foot a lot, I think, eventually.
as we have more accessory dwelling units, as you have an aging population, those are all things that push the goals of Vision Zero, because more people are honestly going to be walking places. And you have kind of a history coming full circle. You're seeing more businesses moving to the edges of neighborhoods, especially even doctor's offices. You're not seeing these physicians' towers near hospitals. You're seeing well meds popping up on the corner and folks are walking to them. That is where Vision Zero really comes into play.
Yes, and I agree, because I think the whole purpose of development is for the safety of the people, whether it's commercial and residential.
Absolutely.
And this PUD is 32.8 acres. How large is this whole neighborhood?
Oh, it is 255 acres in total.
So how many
there's-
homes are we anticipating in the whole neighborhood?
On that slide that we had previously looked at on the screen, you're seeing essentially the bottom half. On the top half, which is above the dashed line, that was a special permit approved a couple years back. It's in the safety subzone for Corpus Christi International Airport. What you're seeing that is shaded is roughly the bottom, I would say just over a third, bordering on half of what can be built on this bottom phase below the dotted line that may or may not have a future PUD across. But that is,
So like 1,000 plus homes, I imagine?
in
If we're getting
total, I mean,
250 in just 32 acres.
right, so we have a count here on the lower right-hand side that's talking about 256 dwelling units for this particular unit. So I would say you would double that if they chose to follow the same path on the right side of the screen. Now, the special permit that's above the dotted line does have very specific requirements that have to meet density because of that safety subzone. So that has more access to Oso Creek drainage areas that cannot be used for construction. So that's going to be clustered more on the right corner eventually. I would say it's probably closer to 1,000 homes than not, but fortunately we have the developer here in the audience, and I'm sure he can give more information on those specific details.
Was there a TIA done for this neighborhood or for this section?
That's one of my favorite topics to talk about when it comes to, speaking of Vision Zero, so when it comes to TIAs, because we have such a high threshold set at 500 AM and PM trips, so not even average daily trips, but AM or PM peak hour trips, it sets a bar that almost, maybe Schlitterbahn can meet that bar, or maybe a Super Walmart can meet that bar, the amount of traffic. When it comes to residential homes, it never generates enough traffic to meet that. Part of the UDC rewrite is going to try to create categories where maybe at only 200 average daily trips instead of PM, that you have to generate a basic TIA, not the Cadillac $20,000 version, but can you give me a $500 version that says, yes, I may need a right turn lane. Yes, I may need a decel lane. Yes, I may need a signal control light. Again, I'm not asking for the Taj Mahal of TIAs. I just need something basic to say that the engineer of record is taking it into account and understands you are generating some significant traffic, so some measures are going to be.
There's a lot of overhaul that needs to be done there.
I mean, that's just wild that a 1,000 home neighborhood is not going to require a TIA. I mean, that's,
But right now, they're kind of pointless anyway, so there's a lot of, because the way the UDC is written, they don't work well, because these developers spend a bunch of money on them, and then the traffic engineering will just say, yeah, we see your TIA, but we know better, and then we want you to do this instead. So there really needs to be a really good overhaul of the UDC that outlines what you do and how you proceed with the information when you get it, so that people aren't wasting money on these TIAs, and then, traffic engineering just tells them what to do. Anyway, so there's a lot that needs to be done. It's not very well written. Some of the data you get on some of these TIAs just isn't even really helpful when you're in an undeveloped area of town, because it'll say go analyze intersections within a half mile of here, and there's nothing there because you're on the outskirts of town, like the London. There was nothing really there at the time to analyze. So
yeah, but usually they'll take into consideration what's going to come. I mean,
only if it's in the UDC and it says you have to do that. So I say there's a lot that needs to be written in on exactly how they, what they look at and what kind of recommendations are made and how those recommendations are implemented. But that's hopefully something that will get done at this next round of UDC.
That's, it's a long list of a honey-do list.
That's one of the big ones, though, that we were trying to get to before things kind of got put aside a while back, but that was one of the main ones I know. I'm sure you hoped would have gotten done back then, but.
With the state statutes now coming on board, it gives the opportunity to open the book, and I want to keep that momentum going. That's the hard part is, it's reading code, it's reading IKEA instructions. It is not the most fun thing to do in the world, and you have to go line by line and then anticipate that one shall turns to may, and it creates a ripple effect. That's the hard part of editing any code, but it's important. It's a tedious but
that is one
necessary
of the big
task.
items I know needs to be addressed. But do commissioners have any other questions on these? And
I had one as well. On the net change of that, if this was approved, what's going to be the net change from what was originally for the amount? From a density standpoint, if we approve it, what's going to be the net increase of?
Was that on that table?
Well, it was on the change, right? But what was on the original one?
Right, so you would have, it would probably be more than
Can we
likely
get it up
a 20% difference if, to go from 4,500 to 4,000. Or I should say vice versa, from, so 4,500 lots, we're working with, I can run some quick numbers, but
Bart, is that something y'all have when we open public comment? Is that a number y'all know? The difference between RS 4.5 and what you're proposing?
32 times, I can run some quick numbers, 6.4. About 4,500.
Less than 20,
He said 10.
about 17.
So that would be around 240 lots, 244, 245 lots if you were to stay at 4,500 rather than
So you're
256.
talking 10, 15 lots?
Right.
It's not a massive difference.
No, it's not.
Okay.
And that was the one question, is on the density piece on it, what kind of stress we would put, by approving this, what kind of stress they would put on the utilities. That would be the big concern.
Andrew, I know historically we have, we've always considered, physical concessions, physical amenities as a concession. What are staff's thoughts, or how do they consider like the economic impact, affordability impact? Could that also be seen as an amenity?
That's a hard one because affordability,
Smaller
even the
lots,
term is moving away and it's now called attainability.
right?
What is affordable to, other than the actual definition of affordable housing, is this moving scale of, based on market conditions, what is attainable, what are banks willing to lend for, and folks can move into those homes. That's why I'm a huge fan of infill development, because I know exactly the neighborhood it's going into. They have established utility networks, and they may be able to squeeze in a few more accessory dwelling units. It's easier to measure what the cost would be. When it comes to greenfield development, there's not really that I can think of a measure where we're going to say, you have to stay under a certain amount. So, for instance, our reimbursement programs that are done through community development, they have to stay under $180,000. That is as a requirement. That rule doesn't really exist when it comes to PUDs. You can argue, I'm building more homes, therefore I'm improving availability of housing, but I'm improving availability, not necessarily attainability. The cost is not necessarily going to change.
Right. For what it's worth, I mean, the way I look at it, because they don't really have, normal PUD, you think, which we rarely do one that's the normal PUD, right? The ones we've seen over my tenure here, they're almost always to make it smaller, right? It's not like Cinnamon Shore, hey, we're a big, unique development. That's what a PUD's supposed to be. But to me, I'm not bothered by this because they're just asking for increased density. And I'm assuming it's market driven, right? But to me, if the economy's driving the market so much that the state legislature changed something that this falls within, then I don't have a problem with it. But that's just my thought process on it. Because to me, if this was 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road, however long it takes for us to update the city, to update the UDC to match the legislature, then this wouldn't even be a PUD. It would just be regular zoning. I don't know if that helps with your question, but any other questions?
Yeah, got a couple of questions. One, so the changing to a PUD, all that we're doing is reducing the lot size. Is there anything else that's changing?
It is lot size and lot width. So instead of a 4,500 square foot lot, they're 4,000, and instead of 45 feet wide, they are 40 feet wide.
Okay. And to Vice Chair Garza's concerned, as far as the Vision Zero principle, if they wanted to make any of those changes, is that something that they would have to come back and ask at that point?
That's an excellent question. So part of the Vision Zero review would be at the time of preliminary and final plat, we would need to look at the cross sections of those rights of way to ensure that there's enough width and sidewalks are being provided on both sides, since that's standard of what you see in predominantly residential neighborhoods.
Yeah, you'd have like our next item, the plat waiver, you'd have a plat waiver.
Okay.
If they wanted to do smaller, anything that is normal, if they wanted to change that, they'd have to do a separate waiver, and it would come here.
You know how deep these lots are that are on the plat right now? Because I know a big issue that we run into, and I know city council's expressed it also as just having room to park your car in front of your home.
Right.
I imagine these streets are,
If
the standard
if they follow the traditional local streets, they'll be 28 feet wide pavement sections. We do require that garage doors have to be set a minimum of 20 feet off of the property line to fit, all of our F-150s and F-250s with hitches and all sorts of things to prevent them from overhanging the sidewalk. That is something that's going to be a very serious discussion with these 3,000 square foot lots of. We're
Are
going
you
to have to
thinking
shrink.
F-150, F-250 will fit in front of this house with the driveway?
That's going to be the deal, is you're going to have these kind of
Gonna be tough.
L-shaped houses where part of the house is going to go down to a 15-foot setback. The only way to make it work is part of the
They're
house.
not asking for a different setback here. They
No,
still
not
have
at all.
20.
No, but that's something we could always consider, because the width being 40 and your driveway is going to be 18 feet, and then you're going to have a truck that tries to park in front of the house, is that going to be enough room? You have a truck on both sides, a 28-foot street, enough room to fit through, it's going to be tough. You
If
could
not,
always require,
Parking enforcement's going to make a little more
That's the
revenue in
same
that
argument.
neighborhood.
I guess that argument's doesn't apply to this PUD. It applies to everything because it's the same.
well, it does, because
in a
it's less,
regular-
it's less width.
No, it's just, well,
If it's 40
I see what
foot
you're saying.
width,
So
that's
the
less
width of the
room.
driveway, not the depth of it.
I'm talking about in front of the house. So if you have a house and you have the driveway that's 18 feet wide and you're trying to park a car in front on the street,
Right.
and it's only a 40-foot wide lot, is that going to be enough room to park a truck in front of the house?
Right.
So to-
Obviously,
so
a
then
wider
you're-
lot,
you're
you have more
barely-
room.
To give you a
tight. You have
glimpse in how we're
basically
talking about the
20 foot,
statute,
I mean, 30 foot would be impossible. 40 foot would be still
Is-
tough.
we'll have to divide up how the
That's a good
house is
point.
separated. So we had I think it was on Bison Drive, there was one where we set the setback at 15 feet to allow the house to get closer, but the garage door had to remain at 20. So it's a way of splitting up parts of the house. The only way to make it work to fit vehicles is either the house won't have a garage at all, and you're going to push it all the way to the back and have no backyard and just have the whole front yard as driveway, or you'll have to create this kind of L-shaped house where your dining room and living room is going to be jutting out, and then the garage door will be set further back. So you'll kind of have this kind
No,
of,
but I get what you're saying. That's a discussion that'll have to be had when we look at allowing or creating these new, the UDC committee, when they.
even the
Right,
4,500.
because you're gonna lose that on-street parking space. It's gonna get tighter.
It's already
And
a
with fire
discussion
already
with
trying to,
RS 4.5.
they're already trying to say you can only park on one side of the road on a 28-foot, so things are gonna get harder.
We have to go to wider streets. We're running out of options.
Wider streets, or you'd have to have a further setback
Correct.
to allow more driveway parking, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, and we can open up public comment? Okay, with that, then we'll go ahead and open up public comment for items 2 through 7.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, nice to see you all today. Bart Brazelton, developer of Saratoga 400 Partners. To answer some of the questions I heard today, just to let you know, this is one small section of a 255-acre site. This site has, because of this PUD being included in this site, it has over 39 acres of green space, open space in the back, including a 2-acre community center right up front and another 5-acre park just off to the back right. So with this increased density, we were able to add all that in. Second question, another question I heard is the front setback. It's exactly as the commissioner, as the chairman pointed out, this is RS 4.5 except for the lot width. So it's a 20-foot front yard setback, has sidewalks, has a road, just like it across. If you can, and I'm sorry that we didn't provide you the full picture, because this is only the bottom left corner. If you'll look, you see how the road on the bottom road there on Unit 1 lines up with the road on the other side? Goes all the way across? Mm-hmm. That means it's the same road width, which is the standard, typical neighborhood road. Means it's the same lot depth, which is 110 feet. So y'all would be approving with this PUD because it is the only mechanism allowed besides a plat waiver, a 4,400 square foot lot instead of a 45. And to your point, Mr. Chairman, in a few months, it's a moot point. because 3,000 square foot lots will be allowed. Now, the rest of the world for a long time has been parking cars in front of 3,000 square foot lots. This is, we'll just have to do things a little different in Corpus than we do it today. So just wanted you to, I hope I'd answered all your questions. Same front yard setback, same lot depth. We have built this product before. It sits in Rancho Vista, a 30-foot wide house on a 40-foot wide lot. Sold them very quickly. It's a very, this will be a new, this part of town, by the way, oh, the TIA. This is on Saratoga Boulevard. This is in 78415, west side of Corpus. It is on Saratoga Boulevard near Old Brownsville Road. Traffic is really not a problem yet. One day, maybe, but there might be one car every 5 minutes going down Saratoga right in this area. So I stand ready for any questions, any technical questions. Of course, Bo is here from Pape Dawson. Be happy to answer anything else we could.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
I do. Okay, so you said up here at the very front on that map, can you put it back on? Right there at the very front, you said there was a park, recreation, whereabouts is I couldn't see because it's so small.
Yeah, it's not shown here
Is that to
specifically.
the north of the page?
Yeah, if just to the, so you see Unit 1, the grayed off area on the bottom left, Unit 1. To the right of it, you'll see there's a kind of a area that's surrounded by roads, RS 4.5.
Yes.
That's the community center.
Yes, right here, okay.
Yeah. So all the, you know, the goal, the point is all the kids will be able to take the.
Right, and how many acres is that?
Oh, it's 2.5 acres.
2.5, and that would be a park and a recreational center, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then in the back, it's kind of, it's actually off this map. There's another one mirroring this one at the back, and then beyond that, there's another 5 acres or playing field, and beyond that, there's another 30 acres of natural area. Yes, on the master preliminary plat, about 1,000 houses and 255 acres. I think that's around 2.5 houses per acre.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Anybody?
Bart, I was joking before our meeting that of all the commissioners, Moses is the one I've seen in here who's the only non-commissioner the most, and you're probably number 2, so appreciate y'all coming to my last meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will miss you, my friend. Thank you for your service. Anybody else? Anything? Okay, let us know.
Cool. Anybody else for public comment?
I figured I'd answer a few questions, not necessarily related to this project, but I don't envy what y'all do. At the end of the day, you made a very good, valid point, something that as a land developer and somebody who also is the chairman of that UDC committee that you've sat on, Ed Cantu has sat on, TIAs, whether they're required or not, ultimately become subjective. You have the Director of Public Works back here. That group required me to do a TIA for a 1,000-lot community in the London area off a state highway, right? Where obviously you have a lot of traffic and it's designed for it. So TIAs are designed to actually study to the left and right of your neighborhood. It's always got a guideline and standard for it. Every developer, every community that brings in an X amount of traffic, whether there's traffic on Saratoga today or tomorrow, there's 1,000 homes there. There should be a TIA done. It should be very fair and very clear. You also made a very good point that sometimes this department doesn't read the TIAs and doesn't look at it, and that department makes their own subjective choices. We have a very clear TIA that this group roughly 4 months ago approved a UTP amendment. But other things can happen in this city to convince people to go against that. That's why the UDC needs to be changed. That's why there has to be clarity. That's why there has to be a standard for everybody to follow so that somebody doesn't just wake up at 11 o'clock at night and send an email out and affect other people's lives. And I'll make that very clear because Andrew runs that department as far as it comes to the UDC. There's got to be a lot of changes that are coming. So as far as PUDs, whether you approve a PUD today, it's not going to be a point tomorrow because of state law. But until the UDC is updated to identify what those 3,000 square foot lots are, we will have traffic issues. We will have driveway issues. We can't send out more code enforcement officers to look for the things that as a land developer, we should be doing right. Whether that's sidewalks, not 40-foot right-of-way roads, 50-foot right-of-way roads, where you have a true 28-foot back-to-back street. That should be the bare minimum of this community. In every community, in every subdivision. And there's plenty of subdivisions today that have 40-foot right-of-ways, that have plenty of sidewalks only on one side. They have the opportunity to do better. They chose not to. That's in the UDC today. That's got to be fixed. And I'm going to take charge in that and fixing that because right now you might be approving a PUD, which is fine, but tomorrow you're going to have to approve a 3,000 square foot lot. But we can set policy and standards to make sure that the community gets what it's supposed to get. I'm going to leave it right there.
Great. Appreciate the comments. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing, entertain further discussion or a motion on items 2 through 7.
Commissioner Mandel, I move that we approve items 2 through 7 as presented by staff.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion and second to approve. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on to item 8, the plat waiver.
With the previous one, we didn't go through the full presentation. Did you want me to just bring up the map or go through the presentation?
Can
you do the presentation?
Just a quick presentation probably be good.
You
And
got
if you can end on that water map, that would be nice,
Got it.
because I have a quick question.
Okay, for the record, Bria Whitmire, Development Services Engineer. This request is for, is it not showing up there yet? Let her get up that. Is it showing on y'all's computers?
Yep, we got it now.
Yeah, all right. For Yorktown, this is a plat waiver to not construct some water line and a fire hydrant that would otherwise be required. Here's the preliminary plat. It's a pretty deep lot. The purpose of the plat is for a cell tower.
Can you answer real quick, go back to that last one?
Sure.
Are they, I know it's a preliminary, but are they just platting the piece in the corner? Is that going to be a separate lot for the cell tower, or are they platting the whole lot?
I would like to say, isn't there a second part coming?
And I asked the question because if we're going to waive the water requirement for
Right.
the cell tower, but they're only in the corner, and then they're going to plat the whole lot, then we've lost our chance to ever get water there.
Correct. There was if anything is built on the larger part of the lot, there would be a full review going forward. This is just that front right portion that
So are they leaving the rest unplatted?
But we wouldn't lose anything, and the reason why is, so let's say you go through your prelim and your final, you, for argument's sake, grant the waiver. If a single-family home or any other use is ever built on that site to meet fire requirements and water serviceability, they'll have to still come back for a public improvement. So this is just saying for the means of the plat, they do not have to install said public improvement. If they ever come back for construction, obviously they'll need.
I get that. I'm just asking, are they platting the whole lot or just that piece, the piece that's dashed out up there?
The preliminary plat is the whole lot. The dashed piece in the corner is the final for the tower.
Okay, so they are planning to do a separate lot?
Eventually, a final would come back for the larger lot, but right now.
I can't read that, but what's the acreage on the remainder? Is it over 5?
4.888.
So they would have to plat it? Mm-hmm. Okay. If y'all were following that, sorry. The remainder's too small to leave unplatted, so when they come back and final plat, that separate lot, it's gonna have to plat both. So this whole thing will get platted all at once.
And fire code for any structures would come into effect.
Okay. And sorry, I didn't mean to get off this much in your first slide, but since we're here, I might as well ask. My question is, I'm fine with the fire hydrant thing, because we just did, my company happened to do the project next door on the left side here, the west side. And so I know there's a hydrant in the northwest corner of this property. And it's only, can't see it here, but I looked at it earlier, it's like 247 feet or something. So they don't need another hydrant till they get to 300, so they're fine there. But
Right.
other than the hydrant requirement, what's the requirement for parallel water lines? In other words, if this was not a cell tower, would they be required to build that 8-inch water line across their frontage, or would they not because it's on the other side of the street?
Because of the size of Yorktown, we need parallel lines. Absolutely, and to be continued along. And so the continuity of services is certainly at play here, but the biggest thing is they're not utilizing any water, wastewater. So it would be extending a dead end that wouldn't be used anytime soon. So it's more of a risk to our infrastructure than an assist. But it wouldn't, as this area builds out, there needs to be a line continued down the south side
That's
of
kind of-
Yorktown with regular fire hydrant spacing.
Seems like opposite arguments. Normally, when we come to this, we're saying if we grant them the waiver, then when the person to the right of this plats, well, now they don't have the water line to connect to. And so what I'm getting at is, we know that a hydrant and a water line was built across Yorktown and now exists on their side of Yorktown in their northwest corner. So the normal procedure here would be when they plat, they're now required to build that water line across their frontage so their neighbor can then tie in and extend it without having to cross Yorktown again.
Correct.
And continue that parallel water line.
And as you had mentioned, the rest of the lot, that 4.888, when they go to plat, it would kick in. So this,
Right, but that's why I asked the platting question, because this will always be platted together. So I know that's what was confusing me, because it says for a cell tower, but it's gonna be a 2-lot plat. So it's not just a cell tower that plats, they have to plat both at once.
2 finals separately.
So you're saying if they do a preliminary in 2 phases, they're allowed to leave the second phase unplatted, even though it's just 1 lot?
They can come back with a separate final plat. They do not have to final all on the same plat.
Isn't that kind of using a preliminary plat to get around the state law of not leaving a remainder under 5 acres? That's not really what preliminary plats are for.
Right, well, preliminary plats to establish phasing, to establish your.
Right, but they're basically saying, we have 2 lots, we don't ever want to plat the second one till who knows, so we're going to do a preliminary plat and then just never do phase 2. It's kind of what they could do.
They potentially could, but I think the discussion would be between the landowner to say, when you submit your second final, would have to be before we record the initial final, which we still have the authority to do that.
And in which, the other part that flagged this situation is you can't get a building permit without being platted. So they had to plat that portion to get the electrical permits needed for the cell tower. So they had to do something in order to get the cell tower done.
Can you pull the map back up?
Sorry, if you want to finish, I know I looked at this a lot, so it's already in my head. If you want to
Sure.
finish your presentation for everybody else's
Yeah.
sake,
I think you stole like slides 5 through 7, but it's all right.
I may or may not be like rushing it a little bit because I feel bad because all my kids are in the back being loud, waiting to take a picture on my last meeting.
That's fine.
If you haven't noticed, they've had to leave like 3 times already.
To be honest with you, I tried to call out the sizes of the water lines in the area to help see the infrastructure. There is a 42-inch transmission main running alongside the south side of Yorktown, which is also why we don't want to do a lot of hodgepodge projects. We need to be very careful around that 42-inch. So this area, it's not in the presentation, but there's likely a CI bond project way in the future, 5-10 years, that's going to include this area. So this is going to have a second line along the south side of Yorktown from the extension that you're very well aware of right next door. So this 6-inch is now coming under Yorktown, thanks to York, and it's coming to that property line with the hydrant right at the corner. So it can be safely flushed, it's gonna be used. Extending that water line across this lot without it being used would be more of a hazard than anything, until we find out what kind of use is going on this property. There's 12-inch, there's 8-inch, farther down Yorktown, there's 6-inch coming down. So there's plenty of connectivity in the area to do similar to what the neighbor did here. Because we're gonna have to go across Yorktown again at some point for circulation.
So you're saying basically, if we grant them the waiver to not build it, it's just going to come down to the CIP project in the future?
Correct.
And I know you said far off, but I'm pretty sure, didn't we just, in the bond, or what, not bond, but
I was thinking.
what we just recommended approval and then council subsequently approved, the design for this section, so it's already in motion.
The design.
So it's a little less far off. It's sooner than,
And that would be a continuous construction rather than a piece here and a piece
Right.
there, and it might match up different.
which is a good thing, because that 42-inch is, you want to
Right.
stay the same distance away from it.
Yes, we don't want too many contractors digging around that 42-inch.
Okay.
So
Does that give commissioners enough information? Do y'all have questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
If you could pull the map back up.
Sure.
So the little pink dot, just so we're clear, that's where the existing fire hydrant is to the east of this property?
No, it's to the
No.
west. It's in the northwest. It's literally on the property line on the northwest corner.
Right at their property line.
So there's already an existing,
There will.
Yeah, right where her mouse is. It
Okay.
Just constructed like
so
a month ago.
which way are they're trying to run the line, so it would affect which property owner?
To
The
the
one on
east.
the east?
Right.
So the one on the west already has the line running through their property, and then this is basically saying that if this property owner does not construct this line ever, then the person to the east of him would need to construct it if they want to develop.
Correct.
So
Right.
ultimately, they would have to take on the burden of the water line as opposed to the current property.
Or wait for the CIP project, or cross Yorktown again, just like the neighbor
Well,
to the west.
crossing Yorktown should not even be an option considering they're
No.
redoing it.
Right, for that first project, it
Yeah.
was understandable because it was the first one.
Right.
But you don't want to cross Yorktown, at every property. That's why I was saying, why are we, for what it's worth, my feelings, I would prefer for them to build it, but the CIP coming in the future makes me feel a little better if we grant the waiver.
But the CIP means tax dollars, right?
Right.
Well, it's also very similar to that same point about the neighbors. So if I go back to the slide where the cell tower is going to be, they would need to run water across the plat that's not their plat. So that burden is on them right now.
But they're the property owner, so it's their property.
They're only this top right corner. So they have to extend across.
Right, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's the same, they're working
it's the same
together to get this done, so that could be part of
Correct.
their deal. And it
Correct.
would be in a normal situation.
I just don't like the idea of having to pass the burden along to the next
Agreed.
property owner
Agreed.
or to the taxpayers. Whenever somebody wants to, plat or develop a property, they should do what everybody else is required to do. Shouldn't give them special circumstances just because they asked for it.
I do like the fact that if it's done with the CIP, it'll all be done together, because proximity to that 42-inch transmission main that's old is
Well, there's no
concern.
guarantee, because what if that property owner to the east develops before the CIP's done?
Right, and build something
And at
across the
the-
street. Well, what I want to ask
At
is,
the pace that the city of Corpus does things.
do we have the ability to do a, kind of cash in lieu of for this, or is that not an option yet because the mechanism doesn't exist?
That had not been brought up previously, but
Doesn't exist? My whole tenure, y'all never got passed.
the. And
I think I've asked that 100 times, so again, another fitting last meeting, gotta ask.
And again, the cell tower is not using any water or wastewater, so this would be, if they were to construct it, it would be a dead end, which would sit there until anything.
But see, that's okay, because you can do a dry dead end. We've done that
Could do
a
it
lot.
at dead end.
And they just
Right.
install the valve closed, and it sits there with nothing in it until they're ready to use it. But, well, any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
See if there's anything else in here.
appreciate the presentation. We're going to go ahead and open up public hearing for item number 8. Anybody would like to make comment? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, it's Ralph Weingarten, Falk and Foster, 1428 Trailside Court Northwest, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49504. Just here for the applicant. Just want to let you know I'm here and available for any questions. Thanks.
All right, do you have any questions for the applicant? Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
appreciate it. With that, we will, well, anybody else? All right. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and entertain further discussion or a motion. I'm kind of on the fence. The CIP makes me feel a little better, but I don't like pushing the can down the road. If there was cash in lieu of, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Well, another issue is, I think that, I mean, you're saying that the other people that own the other part of the land, we don't know when they're going to develop, and we don't know when they do, that they're entitled to put a fire hydrant, and how long will that be?
Right, and that's kind of, I mean, that's how this always is. When you develop a property, you're responsible to extend the utilities across your property so that the neighbors can use them in the future. And so
Yeah,
if we
because
grant the waiver, we're taking that away, and the only way they get it back is to pay for their neighbor's water that they didn't put in because we granted the waiver, or they wait for the CIP project to happen.
I know, I guess I'm just thinking of this. This is all land. You don't need a building for fire to develop out in South Texas. You know, so, I mean, I've seen a lot of grass fires in areas, so the fire trucks have to make sure that they're holding in enough water to put that fire out. So if they don't have access to a fire hydrant, you know, I mean, I don't know, that's
Well,
just something that.
for what it's worth, the hydrant that just got put in is within 300 feet. It's about 230 feet from where the corner of this cell tower, so
Okay.
they will probably be right on the edge of being within compliance, close enough to a hydrant. It's more about the plating requirement of extending public water across your property so that the neighbor can then pick it up and extend it in the future. Because if they go apply for a building permit and they don't meet fire coverage, then they would still have to add a fire hydrant. And I did check that a cell tower does require fire protection.
So if we don't grant the waiver, they connect to the line that you just installed, the fire hydrant, to the west of the property, and run it across your property and just cap it for the future?
If we don't grant the waiver,
Like if we-
that's probably what they would do, yeah. I mean, that would be staff's call if it gets put in dry, you know, if you install so there's no water out, but
Right, it would need the
yeah,
hydrant at the end of it.
if we
for the-
deny the waiver, then they're required to build 250 feet basically of water line and stop at the northeast end of their property so then the neighbor can pick it up in the future.
And then the CIP project would still happen, but it will be shortened by the amount.
Correct.
Right. And the idea is then they would just pick up there and build the rest of it.
I'll make a motion to deny the plat waiver request.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to deny the plat waiver. So I'm going to ask that all those in favor say aye, and an aye is a vote for denial. So all those in favor of denial, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed to denial? Okay, the motion to deny passes. Moving on to director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So recognizing that this is, I don't know if I should congratulate you or condolences that this is your last meeting. But our Mayor Paulette Guajardo has issued a letter and a certificate of appreciation for your service as the chair and a member of the Planning Commission and the Airport Zoning Commission. We can't forget that, our 4 meetings a year, but to recognize you for your service and a nice
look at that.
rosewood plaque. So you can look upon this and remember and have nightmares and of long public hearings and hard decisions.
Of that
But-
time you come in not expecting anything crazy this year, you're like, whoa.
But it's a small token of appreciation. We do appreciate your hard work and your contributions. We hope you stay on committees like the UDC one, where I can definitely use your judgment skills and knowledge.
Definitely, just keep me on the email list. I'll
Absolutely.
be there.
Okay, I don't want you to go far. I got to keep you, close. But nevertheless, we want to issue this. I'm sure after the meeting, take photos here in the central well. But wanted to say thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's been a pleasure serving with y'all. All right, well, are there any future agenda items? And I guess we are adjourned. Kids, if y'all want to come up, you can now.
Want to get a group pic?